How's it going with you? Looks like
Going good, man.
another someplace beautiful you are.
Yeah. I'm out just kind of taking a walk, exploring, and hopefully I have good enough service to be able to you know.
To do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Ooh.
appropriate that you're in motion because it is a horse moon.
Yes. So we're in
Yeah.
Horse Moon. What's the deal?
We just came through the last two moons were metal, right? And
Hmm.
they were the dragon and the snake. The next three moons, because we can talk about this later, but we have a double goat moon coming up. But right now
Hmm.
we're in the water horse moon, young
Okay.
water horse, right? So that's going to modify things slightly, but in general, what we're talking about is summer. Like this is the time where ascending yang comes to its apex. And so it's a fire moon. Even though there's
Hmm.
water configuration on it, it's a summer. This is yang fire, right? So essentially there's like 6 weeks out of the year where basically yang takes charge. And it's so over the top in its ascension that it
Hmm.
moves all form it puts everything into motion. And then the rest of
Okay.
the year, like late summer and fall, that's what you have to deal with. Like you have to harvest that stuff. But that's how strong
Mm.
yang ascends, and then for 6 weeks pushes everything into motion. In this moon, we'll have the summer solstice, and that will be yang coming to its peak and then plateauing for a while and then beginning its descent. But that's a conversation for next moon, right?
Okay.
So for now, what we're talking about is this, we're, not that long. It's like the 28th. So we're like 3 weeks away from full ascension. So we're on the incline. That's the
Mm.
idea, right? So
Okay.
this is the time where everything is kind of put into motion. It's full on, like so
Hmm.
the solution to anything is movement and growth and transformation. So that is what we're supposed to be doing. That's how we're basically participating. So Ming would say, consider that the environment is on fire. And so there's
Mm.
just a lot happening. So how do you relate to the environment being on fire? So there's two main cautions that I think are important to talk about. The first is this is the time of year when individuation and individualism like flourishes, the sense of independent strength and movement, right? So that's there's an intensity of the individuation that tends to happen. So this is a time of year where we can imagine that we somehow succeed alone. Um, and that's
Mm.
actually never the case, right? So one of the
Yeah.
ways that yang becomes useful is that it actually cooperates with yin. And
Okay.
so, because it's a difference between having a plant that bears fruit and a plant that withers and dies. Like if you
Hmm.
have too much yang on the situation, you won't get any fruit. You'll just get a dead plant,
Hmm.
right? So you have to keep the chi in the channels in order for things to actually flourish. And that's what we should have been negotiating over the last two moons is how we're going to keep the chi in the channels. This is called education. This is called planning. This is called making alliances. All of these things are very yin activities, how to team up, how to get things done, right? So when we're talking about this is the time to get things done, we should be relying on those plans. We should be relying on teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work, right? So we should be working together, in this kind of collaborative atmosphere. But there's a risk that, like, you know what, I'm just going to do my own thing and then go off on some tangent. And that leads to squandering, right? And I'm telling you right now, everybody's going to squander. Like it's okay, because there's so much energy available. You have more than enough you need to get the job done. So don't worry about squandering. It's just that if you're doing it compulsively, if you have compulsive squandering going on, then you can actually set a really bad precedent for the capacity for fulfillment. Because this is the time when we should be bringing things to conclusion. We should actually bring things to some kind of fruition. We should start experiencing that sense of like, I completed 4 or 5 steps and now I have a conclusion, right? So this brings us to the second main caution, which is beware of open-ended projects. Uh, Now in America, like we're pretty, multitasking is supported, in a
Hmm.
horse moon. Like you can do lots of things all the time. But in America, we sort of we have this understanding of life as some kind of mixture of indentured servitude
Hmm.
that we're a slave to something, even if it's like the great project that's going to make us a mega millionaire. We have to be a
Yeah.
slave to it,
Yeah.
right? Like we have to give our lives to it in order to get that fulfillment. So that's a bias, that's a certain really powerful prejudice that we have. And during this time of year, that could be a liability, because you get all this energy and you feel like you can do it. So you'll create 5 or 6 different platforms, like get things moving. And okay, that's great, but what's the plan for actually finishing it? What is
Yeah.
the plan for finishing it? And if you don't have that, it's better off not to start. It's better off not to start something we can't finish. It's better off to keep to do, what you want to finish, like really understand what your priorities are. That's a good way to use this energy. Matt.
Yeah, the what you're saying, I mean, with all the yang energy, I mean, that's the beginning of an idea, but it's not something to start, it's kind of the brainstorm, it's like you could start a bunch of things, but then like see, it's funny you say it because like I was sitting around, I'm doing a lot of work today,
Mm-hmm.
and and then I'm like, okay, I did enough, and I was like, I just want to do something creative to create, like, and then it was really nice that we talked, and then now I
Yeah.
can make time for
Now,
this because this isn't all about get something, get something, get something. It's like do something with somebody that I care about. And
right,
it's
right.
really nice. Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing that Ming would always talk about is like, oh, summer hits and the sun comes up and everything's warm, then you start breaking your obligations and forgetting
Mm,
about your commitments, right? Because you want to go do
yeah.
this or want to go do that. This is where tangents are, there's a lot of them. You can expect a
Mm,
lot of tangents and I'm gonna sit here and say, yeah, you should expect it and that's okay. Like if you want to suddenly break off and go to the beach with your friends, like, yeah, that's summer. That is kind of what it's all about.
yeah.
And so don't beat yourself up. It's not like, I don't, this kind of like you have to control young, like, yes. And also like there is this kind of, availability for an abundance of activity. So there could be
Mm,
a lot of wasted tangents, what does it mean for you to go to the beach with your friends? Like, it doesn't really bring you, the fruition is more intangible. It's actually yin, that you're like
mm,
really sanctifying your relationships. You're actually
mhm.
building community. And those things will really matter when we get into the next couple moons after this one. So we shouldn't ignore yin. Like in the winter time, we talk about preserving yang within by keeping it warm, kind of moving around and stuff while the environment is so yin, right? So and when you flip that around, now that the environment is so yang, you have to find ways to conserve and nourish yin within, right? Because yes, Matt.
May I suggest taking a Vitamix and putting cucumber and
Yeah,
pineapple in it and just mix cucumber and pineapple, and I put a little spirulina in that cools
just
cucumber
chill,
with pineapple
chill
all
out.
day.
Yeah. I agree. Like the nature itself is telling you what to do. Like it's giving you these very these foods that aren't necessarily dense in nutrients, but they have a lot of fluid in them. They have a lot of yin.
Mm,
So there's a kind of cooling effect that
hmm
comes with the things that are available to eat in nature. And so,
mm,
we should be careful with excessive stimulation, or we should be careful with trying to burn the candle at both ends,
mm,
or pushing pushing ourselves too much, because what you're doing is you're challenging your inner resources and potentially depleting them, right? If we're pushing too hard. It's like really, if you want to recover your yin, practice finishing things. Find
Mm.
ways to really experience that reward of something being done. Like, so even if it's just the end of the workday, be like, I did this. No, okay, I'm good. And
Yep.
now I'm gonna go take a walk, or now I'm gonna. So
Hmm.
all these things are ways to kind of nourish and recover yin. But if we're anxiously trying to, what I say, like maximize,
Mm.
that's what we love, to maximize our opportunities, then we risk basically depleting ourselves and ruining any of our opportunities, because we have too much on our
Mm.
plate already. I mean, we're all, as Westerners, we're all slightly traumatized by our schedule. And like
Yeah,
this
I
is the,
mean,
this is the time of year where you're like proud of it, like,
yeah,
no, bad
that
idea. Bad
yeah,
idea.
the amount of times that I talk about, like, as a body worker, I've never seen a vacation relax anyone. They always come back more stressed. And maybe one time I saw that happen, but I'm just kind of pretending that I remember it. And
Yeah.
then and then the other one is, we have a toxic trait that we all support, and that's busy work, constant busy work,
Yep.
constant busy work, constant busy
Yep.
work. And then and yeah, it's not serving us. It's the engine that drove us to keep our parents and our assistant managers off our back, and our shift leaders. You've got time to lean, you got time to clean, right?
Right.
And then now we still hold on to that. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot you can do, especially it's really important as Yang really dominates the environment and kind of pushes everything into fruition. Sit back and relax. Like,
Hmm.
actually you
Yeah.
can like go enjoy the splendor, because the sun is like pushing all phenomena
Mm.
into manifestation, into form. So like
Mm.
flowers and, all kinds of things that you can go out and enjoy, and like you should
Yeah.
don't think of it as like productivity isn't just about like making things happen. Productivity is enjoyment, it's in celebration, it's
Yeah.
community. All of those things are deeply productive and nourishing in a way to kind of keep yin sustained, because it's an intense time, and it's going to get more and more and more intense. And then it gets to that high pitched squeal of the solstice where it's just like really rocking you. So if you don't have the inner yin resources to sort of sustain your form, then hypertension, all these different like crazy stressful diseases that can really knock us off our feet. And
Mm.
so it's the little things, really. Practice finishing things. Don't lose track of your friends. Work with others, even if you can do it alone, do it together.
Hmm.
Those sorts of things I think are really good. The main thing I would also avoid is don't keep your options open so much, like actually balance, you maintain your focus on your priorities and having a sense of discipline. And then, balance that with like being okay to squander an opportunity, or to let it go, or to
Hmm.
be like, oh, I'll wait for next summer, or like, it didn't quite come together. Don't keep the stress level low as much as you can. Now the trouble is, this is a water horse moon, which means there's going to be a lot of real strong emotional investments, and so that could actually cool things down. It could, kind of make us open to being slow. Think of a water horse as not like a crazy pony or a thoroughbred, but like a Clydesdale. Kind of like
Hmm.
moving slowly along, but looking great while it does it.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
so that's pretty nice, but like if
Hmm.
you're, so there can be like pacing, I think can be more available, pacing yourself, when it comes to a water horse moon. But then also it could function as like the hill you die on, like being so
Mm.
over invested in something that you sort of sacrifice yourself to achieve it. So. That's something to think about.
That's that's been a common thing lately. A common conversation is, sorry, I'm grateful that I'm a musician and I've thrown away more songs and written more songs and forgotten more songs than I'll ever, than I actually know now. I mean, now I could probably recall like 20 of them. And I mean, you know me, I could sit around and play
Yeah,
originals
you're
at your
super
bar all
prolific.
night
Yeah.
long. Yeah.
So great. Yeah.
And, but now it's like, I don't know, but just throw them all away. So a big common thing has just been working with people on, hey, it's not precious. It's not precious. Stop making it so
Mm,
precious. It'll come back.
mm, mm.
And
Yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah,
a hard one for people sometimes.
that's a hard one. And also we
Hmm.
equate, I mean, heroism is a tricky
Mm,
thing, period, but it's
mm.
generally in this culture associated with suffering.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
like they're willing that you're heroic if you're willing to accept the level of suffering. And I think there's
Mm,
an up, so that's activated this moon, but I think there can be some transparency that comes with that,
right.
especially since we're in this wood snake situation, right?
Mm,
So there should be some transparency around that that you could address, and maybe
mm.
even slow down or change or give something up, give up something that you've been pushing at for years and years, and like maybe it's actually a good idea to just let it go. That's also available.
So who's made for this? What's our buried or married? What are the
So when
things?
when it comes to the trines, basically the benefit of this particular water horse moon either comes from your capacity to operate independently, like I got this, and you're just going for it, or um, your compatibility for working in a kind of teamwork situation. And they're
Hmm.
not mutually exclusive, but that's two different ways that any of the chi characters can approach it.
Hmm.
So what I would say is that, if we're starting with the domestics are way better off. That's your pig, your goat, and your rabbit. Especially your rabbits this moon are really going to want to like stay close to others and stay close to the
Mm,
network, because it is the case that when it comes to being in a horse moon, high, peak yang, you know, intensely stimulated capacity for growth and transformation. And that means that things can kind of come at you sideways, like especially in a snake year. So you can't
mm,
really, especially for domestics, don't make a lot of assumptions. You should double
mm,
check and work closely with others. And that's your pig, rabbit, and goat. That's also true for a dog. Typically speaking, I transitioned to dog, and dog is in what I call the advancing trine, which is the dog, the horse, and the tiger. So dogs have one advantage that other domestics don't have. They should also follow the same, pull as a team, work as a team, work as a pack. Don't take things for granted. But dogs also have more of a capacity to keep up, right?
mm,
They have the vigor to actually really put their shoulder into something, and that will be very evident for them this moon. I think this is the moon when it comes, dogs have had a rough stretch. So this is the moon for them to kind of really start to feel themselves a little bit, like that they
mm,
actually are capable of getting things. They're not as helpless as they may have felt over the last few years, that they can actually really gain traction. And that actually also come from kind of a teamwork and a helping situation where they are recognized, for their
mm,
capacity. So that can be a good thing for dogs. This moon is a kind of beginning of turning the corner. And then when it comes to horses and tigers, especially for tigers, they've been feeling kind of pent up. So this is a little bit of a release for them. And the biggest concern for tigers is injury, and it's also the case for horses. Is it, practice completing things, try not to go off on too many tangents, and don't disregard the opportunity for teaming up, even if it's a small run things by people. before you do it. Maybe, like kind of talk with some people that you really trust or elders or experts, double check,
Mm,
your plans. Might be a good idea for both tigers and horses before they, this is an opportunity for them this moon to sort of court Murphy's Law. They can kind of put themselves in a situation where they're like, man, like I wish I coulda, woulda, shoulda. Um, so that's on the table, if they push a little too hard. Now, when it comes to like kind of the power trine, which is your dragons, your rats, and your monkeys, their power comes from their capacity to really adapt because like I said, everything's kind of coming from any which way. When it comes to horse and peak yang, lots of things growing and transforming. The whole ground can kind of change overnight. That there is potential for that, and those three do very well, or at least the monkeys and the dragons do very, very well in that situation. And what I would say about both of those is that don't take it personally if something does change on you, and don't embrace the chance for leadership wherever it
mm,
occurs. Like give yourself that give yourself the give yourself the opportunity to give to others right now, because
mm,
they'll if you're in that situation, they'll really need it.
mm,
And for the rats, uh batten down the hatches. That's the biggest advice for them. They're the ones that really maybe need the most help this moon,
mm,
because it was always already a little bit of a tenuous year, when it come to snake year, this particular wood snake year. And then when you add horse to it, rats could kind of get trampled with like way too much. So they should simplify their profile of activities, and kind of keep their social circle really contained. They benefit from containment as much as possible. And that's relatively also true for monkeys, but they can be much more flexible in how they adapt to changing circumstances right now than rats can. They have a little bit of an edge because they kind of tilt
mm,
more to the capacity of a dragon. So if they're in a place of helping, like I wouldn't ask rats to help too much, but with monkeys and dragons, they can help. They can do more leadership kind of stuff. Fixed, when it comes to the snakes, the roosters, and the oxen, pretty simple, actually. They should keep it simple, kind of like the rat. Don't go off script.
mm,
If because you have a script, I guarantee that each one of those has a script, and they've identified their script, and they're gonna. And what I would say, particularly this moon, you should don't go off script, stay on your script, and play. That's your strength, so you should play to your strengths. Because it's kind of like for them, peak yang, like it's like a kind of a billowing wind, right? So they are the ones that most likely have the most well-defined sail, right? So they should just put their sail out, and
mm.
and they should be fine. Um, that's the best advice I can give to each one of them, is just kind of play to their strengths, and keep it simple, and don't go off script, like kind of stay with plan. Because there'll be a lot of things
Ah,
that'll happen that they'll be like, well, I didn't see that coming. But like what I would say is like whatever you don't see coming is probably irrelevant, so make note of it and move on. Like don't worry
mhm,
too much about it, right?
mm.
So stick to the plan.
Wow,
Yeah.
that was clean, tight. You got tight today.
Yeah, I was ready.
Mm, yeah, thank
Well,
you.
it's the
Thanks for,
easiest one to talk about because it's essentially the American moon. The American, it's just like go.
yeah.
So it's not a question of whether or not we're going, like you
Set a
should
goal, execute. Set a goal, execute. Set
execute.
a goal,
Exactly.
execute.
Set a
Yeah.
goal, execute. Yeah. Like, and that's really the message, is that do all the steps, like actually
Mhm,
be thorough. Don't
mm,
set a goal, start it, set another goal, start it, set another goal, start it, and like don't complete anything, because you'll be exhausted. You're not replenishing your yin. And then you finish you know, you finish summer with a series of entanglements that you think that you need to keep up with,
Mm.
and that will actually just take you into the winter as a
Yeah.
hot mess, and like,
Yeah, that's the whole Navy SEAL thing is ownership and execution, right? They always say if you come up with an idea, you start the idea, and then your next three steps are execute, 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 right? And that's kind of blowhardy, but it kind of makes sense because it's like you
I
think you're doing
mean,
it, and do it again, do it again. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I would, discipline and containment is really good for horses. It's like it's the
Mm,
way but when it comes to water horse, they're really attached. They can be attached to, they can get it, they can
mm,
really, they can keep up with that. So, I mean, I would say to anybody listening to this, be a Navy SEAL, like follow
mm,
in the horse moon for sure. Like,
mm.
because something like the Navy SEAL or any military, they are a perfect. They're great for understanding how to handle the
Yeah.
chi of horse. Yeah, they are.
Yep.
They just are.
Yeah.
They get it.
Yeah.
They get it.
Your push-ups, y'all.
Do your
Wake up.
push-ups.
Wake
Yeah,
up, run. Yeah.
discipline.
Yeah.
Make your bed in the morning.
Yep. Make your bed.
And
Yep.
what's interesting about that is that from a Chinese standpoint, this is kidney, right? The regularity and the discipline,
Mm,
doing the same thing at the same time every day, having that sense of routine. And when you embrace routine, essentially that is yang agreeing to play with yin. Like that
mm.
yang is going through those channels, and then you actually have something to celebrate.
Yeah.
But if yang is its own value, running off on its own, then it does nothing. And it potentially destroys the capacity that you have to generate anything,
Mm.
right? So if you keep it, if you get yang to play ball and look after yin, and you feed this kind of sense, and you feed this sense of routine, that's very kidney, that's water, that's maintaining yin in the body. It's great. You should definitely practice some kind of discipline this moon. And if
Mm.
you're going to start a discipline, that's okay, but keep on it and carry it through into the winter. Don't let it go just because, oh, it's getting darker. Like, this is, follow through, have a
Mm.
plan, stick to it.
I would give you a round of applause, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to crack a whip in honor of you.